Hey everyone, I'm Sloane, the founder of Invest Vegan. We've been in business for a year. Can you believe it? Transparency and education is one of our main goals. It's something I spent a lot of my career advocating for and doing, respectively. And so I want to take some time to take you under the hood of our portfolio and how it's performed over the last year. And just a quick note, I manage two other portfolios that haven't been around for a full year. So we'll talk about those ones when we've got a year to talk about. Um, but before I get into the really good stuff, I need to give you a quick regulatory disclaimer, right? Past performance is not indicative of future results. Anything could happen in the future, right? And though I'll try, I can't necessarily manage everything. Who knows? These numbers have been calculated by Y charts, which I use to calculate my portfolio performance. If you are a client, your individual performance may vary quite significantly, not quite significantly, but it could vary a bit, based on when you made your investment and when you added or subtracted money from your account, right? That's an individual performance. This is the aggregate performance of all of the accounts, right? If you were to just give me $1 at the beginning of the year, this is what you would have now. That's what we're talking about. And if you're a current client, the most reliable source of information is always going to be your account statement. That disclaimer is the kind of thing that I have to say for regulators, but I also want to say something for just you, which is that our sole focus is sustainable long-term investing. That's what we do at Invest Vegan. It is the only thing that we do. It means that literally every client that we accept is investing for a period much longer than a year. So while everything I'm about to talk about is nice, if you really want to understand our strategy, go to the process page of our website. This portfolio performed the way that it did because I do the same thing every month no matter what. There is really no other way to talk about it, no other way to understand it without understanding what all of that stuff is. So I have another video coming up about the process, but I encourage you to sort of engage with that. Anyway, you're not here for disclaimers, you're here for performance. So let's show you a couple of lines. This is the main line. This is the line that a lot of people are, limit their analysis of performance to, right? So basically, this shows the purple line is the Veda Ethical Growth portfolio. That's my flagship portfolio. And then the orange line is our benchmark, the MSCI ACWI, which is really, really well named, I got to say. But basically, it corresponds to a broadly diversified global index fund, right? It is a broadly diversified global index that you can buy in a broadly diversified global index fund. And what you see from this is if you had kind of put $1 in both of those choices at the beginning of the year, or about a year ago, not at the beginning of this calendar year, you would be in roughly the same place. But what you would own would be much different, and the underlying kind of outlook for those assets is quite different. The other thing that comes out to me is that our portfolio has demonstrated a substantial amount of resilience over this time, right? Like, so if you go and look at what happened in the sell-off in January, we underperformed, kind of like significantly, right? That's like maybe 10%. And we were underperforming by 10% for the better part of 5 months, 6 months. But then we closed the gap, right? And this next slide will show you that in a little bit better detail. Basically, this shows you the Invest Vegan Veda Ethical Growth portfolio, our index, and then a couple of other ETFs that are out there that folks may be kind of choosing between Invest Vegan and those things. And I've masked the names of these ETFs because I see these folks as colleagues and not competitors, so they're not here to I'm not trying to call anyone out. But I just want to kind of underscore that the resilience that our portfolio experienced has not been a broad-based phenomenon, right? So we had a phenomenal 3 months, a very solid 6 months, and that brings us right back to base with the rest of the portfolios over the year. But the bulk of our clients have actually joined the firm in this period. So it's likely that folks are experiencing a little bit better performance than our strategy as a whole, which, God, that makes the heart glad. Let's go under the hood a little bit more and talk about the raw materials that I'm using to generate that performance, right? What I've done in this slide is this is our top 5 performers that we've owned for the full year, right? So these companies have been in our portfolio since the very beginning, and over the course of the sell-off, one of the main things that I was doing was, looking at everything in our portfolio again and again and again, and trying to produce a portfolio that looks like this, where my best ideas are up at the top, right? Where we're basically overweight to, some of the best things that we can think of, and our process really compels, me to do that here. This is what those stocks have looked like individually. Enphase has had a phenomenal year. That's been great. It's our second largest position. That's also been great. That's been a big part of why we've been up so much in the past 3 months. Obviously, that sort of thing doesn't come along all that often. But I want to point out that there are also just like a number of companies under the hood that are demonstrating quietly compelling performance. And I could not be more excited about the portfolio of stuff that we own. Whenever I think about the future these days, I'm like, am I invested enough in this thing? Am I invested enough in this thing? And I sort of come away with like, well, kind of yes. That's the kind of thing you get out of a process of continual refinement. Here are the bottom 5 performers over that same period, right? So these companies, we've owned them since the beginning in one way or another. And like I say in one way or another because this company was a SPAC and we actually owned a predecessor security for a while. But what you see is that these companies that are at the lower end of the performance spectrum are at the lower end of the weighting spectrum, and that's kind of what you do as a portfolio manager, right? If you find a company that you like but you think that it might be encountering some difficulties or whatever, you try to kind of gear your exposure so that you're less exposed to things that are, likely to underperform and more exposed to things that are likely to overperform. Anyway, I still love these companies. I expect to buy more probably at some point, but here's how they've performed over the last year, right? So Ginkgo Bioworks having a tough time, Crocs having a tough time. The other folks, roughly in line with the market, actually. So I think, another thing that, I just want to underscore is that, when you go down the list of our worst performing stocks, you get to number 3 or 4, and you're roughly, you're only a couple of basis points behind the market. So I'm pretty proud of that. And yeah, I mean, like, I don't mean to, go too into the weeds on this because I think that over the long term, the choices that we make day in, day out, the performance that we had this month, the performance that we had this quarter, doesn't matter, right? It just doesn't move the needle for an individual investor, for an institutional investor, whatever. What matters is the ability to find an asset manager who you can trust to basically seize the power that is afforded to asset managers in our capitalist system and use it to allocate resources towards things that matter. And that's what we do at Invest Vegan, right? So, if you look at that portfolio that we've produced, it's really weighted towards agriculture, towards, building a smarter grid, towards like, things that are aligned with human flourishing. And I think that whatever you call this approach to portfolio management, people call it, I've been called a thematic portfolio manager, recently, or impact or whatever you call it. I call it moral money management, and I think it matters a lot, and I'm so proud to be in business. I'm so grateful to all of our clients for allowing me to be standing in front of you today talking about what we've done over the past year. I look forward to doing it again not too long from now when I have some other portfolios with a year of performance history to talk about. Bye! Before I sign off, I also want to stress that we're not just making improvements in portfolio management, we're also making some improvements in client experience here at Invest Vegan. So if you'd like to talk to me about any of this, just go to investvegan.org and click Talk to a Person. That'll allow you to book a meeting with me right away. Or if for whatever reason you'd like to open an account, you can just click the Open an Account button. And there's this really nice form that will take you through the thing. am unreasonably excited about this form. It's really great. It's actually very cool. The only way to know for sure is to check it out. Am I right? Anyway, bye.